What's up, everybody? What's up? Good morning. Good morning. Happy Friday morning to you guys. As some of you guys get up and get ready, I've been up for hours. I do this every single day of the week. So shout out to you guys. Happy Friday. Shout out to anybody coming in the chat. Do me a favor, guys. As you come in the chat, say what's up for me. Say where you're watching from. Hit the like button first and foremost because it does a ton for the algorithm and it does a ton for the channel and the video. First and foremost, and most of all, share the live stream. I appreciate you guys for doing that. Desktop live streaming and in-place live streaming is it, man. It's much harder. It's much harder for me to sit here for hours and entertain you than it is for me to just kind of like be outside. I was watching this video by Omizi yesterday. I wanted to share it with you guys, so I might share it later on tonight, where he was talking about IRL streaming versus desktop streaming, which I didn't even know this was like a thing, like this was a versus. But I know in the last 3 years, especially 5, IRL has been super popular, and I just know that because of the IRL streamers I watch, right? So I'm with like the DDGs, the Deshae Frost, the Jay Cincos. Like I watch those guys. I think like when it comes to live streaming, they do it well, right? Regardless if we like their content or not. So I've been watching those for a while. Shout out to Jay Cinco and Lala. They're having a baby soon. Yeah, if you guys want to get married, let me know. Like Pastor Q is in the building. But other than that, yeah, happy Friday, everybody. Happy Friday. Like I said, I do this every single morning. I've been up. So this is just me coming to you guys with an early live stream because yesterday was a long day, crazy day. Work is hectic. It is what it is. Even though I have a very flexible schedule and I'm off work very early in the day, I just had a hectic day in general. And then later on, Thursdays is usually my Bible study day with my small group. So it's just, I was all over the place Thursday, and it was just a lot going on. So I came on for you guys for a couple of minutes. I didn't commentate much, showed 2 videos, and then it's like I kind of just cut the live stream. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to jump back on in a couple hours. We're going to look at some news because there's a couple things I want to talk about today. And we got some good stuff going on. So per the title, because you guys know I like to follow my title. So if you jump in the live stream at any point in time, you can kind of pick up where we're at. First up, let's see here. First up, what do I have first up? I think I have the Texas Senate race with Jasmine Crockett and James Tellerico. So we'll take a look at that first. Then after that, we'll jump over to Aaron Pardon. Shout out to him. He's a channel favorite. Breaking: Kamala Harris breaks her silence on Trump's State of the Union. We'll take a look at that. And then we will also take a look at, what else did I have up there? Bill O'Reilly talks about, right, how does this impact you? So you guys can see State of the Union aftermath. I wanted to take a look at that. And then after that, we're actually going to go take a look at the CNN panel. Voters in crucial swing state district react to Trump's speech. So they got a couple of voters in some swing states. Those of you guys that know what swing states are, you know that this is more about the college electoral votes. Voters in those states are talking about what they thought about the State of the Union speech. So we're going to take a look at what they thought about it. And yeah, just get kind of like some of their point of view on it. A lot of people were disappointed that he didn't talk a lot more about the economy feeling, expensive. I saw one lady say, don't piss on my leg and say it's raining. So a lot of people were super indifferent about his State of the Union speech. People said it was boring. Then you had other people say that President Trump broke a record because of how long he spoke. Other people didn't care about the record because they felt like his speech was completely boring, which I thought was hilarious. So we're going to jump into some live stream clips right now. Again, shout out to you guys. Hit that like button for me. Let's jump right in. Good morning. Happy Friday to everybody. Good morning. And yeah, let's watch some morning news.
Joining me tonight, Democratic Congressman from Texas, Jasmine Crockett. Welcome, Congressman. You're in the sprint, full sprint to Tuesday. As you've heard, many have talked about the different polls. Some polls show a very tight race. But what's your sense on the ground as early voting wraps up, I think, tomorrow?
Yeah, people are fired up. I will tell you that the story that no one realized they were going to have to write is the influence of young women in this election. Young women have been very emotional about my candidacy and about this race. And so they are telling everyone, they're calling their moms, their grandmoms, their dads, and they're like, go vote. I've been on FaceTime talking to some of them. So that's really exciting and encouraging to see. But yes, you put up a poll. That is all good. I need Texas to recognize that the last day of early voting is tomorrow, and the only polls that matter are the polls that you show up to vote at.
There could be more Democratic early voters than Republican ones, even though both races, they are competitive. But tell me, Congressman,
So we got 864,978 Democrats when it comes to early voting versus 779,865 Republicans. I'm not going to lie. Those are some good Democratic numbers. Like, they're coming out. They're showing out for Jasmine Crockett. I've been closely watching this race specifically because I actually care about both of these candidates. I kind of like both of them to a certain extent, right? Jasmine Crockett is who she's always been, kind of rowdy, knows what she's known on the Democratic side as that go-getter. Probably, depending on what you say, cuss you out in a quick second, but she does her thing. And James Tellerico, I brought him to the channel a couple of times. Actually, I've actually showed him on the channel with you guys watching a sermon by him because James was very interesting to me. And I said we needed to keep an eye on James. The way he's very intricate with his theology and how he implements that into politics. I think he does it masterfully, and he's very charismatic. But sometimes his theology is faulty, and that's fine. Like, we all can go through that at certain points. But there's just certain things that he says where it's concerning, to say the least, right? But I still think because of the type of candidate he is, he's doing well. He's doing well in Texas, where Jasmine Crockett is not doing well. He's doing well, right? So she's not doing well again with young white males that are conservative. That's not really shocking to me. And she's also not doing too well with I think they said it was younger Latino men or like middle-aged Latino men. So, I mean, this makes sense to me, especially that both the groups are males. I'm not saying they necessarily have to be sexist, but she could just not be the candidate that, she's putting forward what they want to hear. Nonetheless, she has led the entire race. She has led James in the entire race. So I'm wondering if that's going to change after early voting's over, but we'll see.
there could be more Democratic early voters than Republican ones, even though both races, they are competitive. But tell me, Congressman, what message do you think that sends about Texas and really the midterm electorate overall?
Yeah. A lot of people thought I was a crash dummy. They were like, why are you leaving the House? Why are you running for the Senate? It's Texas. And I kept telling people that we have the numbers. We are voter suppressed, and there is a bit of voter apathy. But I was like, we can do this. And as you can see, right now, we have maintained a lead over the Republicans throughout the entirety of early voting. We'll see if that flips tomorrow. But this tells me that we have enough Texans who just haven't been voting. We are one of the lowest voter turnout states in the entire country. And I kept saying, we just need to turn our people out. We're really not that red. And right now, they are coming out in droves. And I'm telling everyone that I talk to, listen, this is great. But if we outvote the Republicans in this primary, I need y'all to understand they are going to do everything that they can in November to preclude us from being able to access the ballot box. So you're going to have to keep this energy and some.
You look ahead to November already, obviously, general election, and there are critics, as you know, who are arguing that even if you can win the primary, you can't win in the general. They've got Time Magazine asking one Republican lawmaker if he feared you or James Tellerico, and he was blunt, saying she can't win. He can. What's your response to this assumption that you have a shortcoming in that area?
I mean, listen, I don't know who telegraphs who it is that they want to go against. I really don't. All I can tell you is that right now, the governor of Texas is spending over $3 million specifically against me running ads. So it doesn't sound like they want to go against me, but I do also...
Now imagine that. The governor of Texas, this is Gregory Abbott, is it not, if I'm not mistaken? I mean, I can double check, but those of you guys who know for sure, I think it's Greg Abbott, the guy who's in the wheelchair, right? Who Jasmine called Hot Wheels, which was crazy work. But $3 million in ads, so she doesn't spend money on ads. That's crazy work. So I can see where she thinks it kind of seems like they don't want to run against me because they're putting that much energy forward. I would say so.
know that the Republicans are very good at throwing bombs. They did the exact same thing when they decided to tell all the Democrats that, oh, Joe Biden is old and oh, he is senile. So therefore, you guys need to get rid of Joe Biden. And so what did we do? We went ahead and got rid of Joe Biden. And at the end of the day, what did they do? They elected a old senile con man instead. So they love to kind of stir us up and have us decide to play off of their rhetoric. Democrats need to focus on the prize. We don't need Republicans telling us what can and can't happen. Instead, we need to do what we know how to do best, which is to send a fighter back to DC. For everyone that is concerned about my voice being absent, we know the truth. We know that we can send me back to DC. We know that Senator John Cornyn specifically said, if you choose wrong, we may lose this seat. We also know that I am the only Democrat that is consistently polled ahead of a Republican in multiple polls, both internal as well as independent polls. So listen, forget all the noise. The reality is that we can do whatever it is that we put our mind to. Many people did not think that we would flip that Senate seat in Texas, but we swung at 30 points. Many people didn't see a black woman being elected the mayor of Leander. There was a +4 Trump seat, but she swung that seat 17 points. So listen, forget all of that and mind your business. I'm telling everybody, don't mess with Texas, and we're going to do what needs to be done.
Will you change your approach on Tuesday if you win? Because you'd have to bring in, obviously, more than just Democrats who have not been voting. You'd have to pull independents as well to win that Senate seat. Do you have what it takes to do that?
I do. The University of Houston polling that came out right before this most recent poll, it showed that I do really well with independents and Republicans, actually. So I do think that depending on who the nominee is, different groups may be more inclined to come over here. But at the end of the day, we're going to continue to talk about the things that unite us and not divide us. And frankly, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or independent, if you feel as if your paychecks are too short, then you've got a spot over here. If you feel as if your rent is too high, then you have a spot over here. If you feel as if you don't know how it is that you're going to ever be able to afford healthcare, then you have a spot over here. So that, I mean, we're focusing on very simple messages, and we are not going to allow the culture wars to become the conversation. Instead, we're going to focus on what is actually impacting our lives. And I think no matter who you are, right now, things are looking kind of bleak.
You know, you mentioned a couple times Governor Greg Abbott. I know we're sort of on time.
And I mean, in Jasmine Crockett's defense, that simple statement, it doesn't matter who you are right now, I think everything seems a little bit bleak. The reason why we can confirm this is because of President Trump's approval rating. So it's not like I'm super happy that the approval rating is dropping, but I can understand why it's dropping. The economy still feels expensive to a lot of different people. You see a lot of people getting pissed off about them constantly talking about, you know, Pam Bondi, right? When she was at her hearing and she wanted to ignore victims and talk about the Dow being at 50,000. And we want to, at the State of the Union, we got the president talking about how much the stock market's doing and that people's 401ks are doing better than they ever have. Don't get me wrong. I'm a part of that group. So I would be lying to you guys if I didn't say that I wasn't pleased with what I see. With that being said, 401k and retirement money is for the future. It's not necessarily money that we dib and dab in right now. So while I'm watching my portfolio grow and it's growing at a lovely pace, it doesn't take away from the fact that when I have to fill up my 2 vehicles, right, or I have to fill up the 1 vehicle that I'm going to choose to use for the week, that everything still sucks, right? Like things still feel ugly to the average American person, right? And I do decently well for myself, but still, it's like that's the reason why people are upset. Not to mention, at the State of the Union address, he doesn't even bring up the 2 people that were killed by ICE. Now, I talked about this on the live stream. I said I did not think that that was in his best interest, and I'm glad that no one advised him to do that. There were people that said, no, we didn't think that he should bring up, you know, Alice Pretty and Miss Good, the other lady that was killed. They didn't think that he should bring it up. I advised against it because President Trump has a certain stance against that a lot of people don't agree with. The Democrats were already worked up. So I promise you, if he would have started talking about these 2 people that got killed by ICE in the street, this would not have worked out well for him. So I'm actually glad he did not bring them up.
I'm running for re-election, not for Senate, by the way, but he is spending a lot of money on the attack ads against you. Do you think that people who are saying and suggesting that Republicans want to face you in November because they believe you're somehow easier to beat. What is your reaction to that?
If they were really wanting that, I would think that the governor would hold on to his money and not spend it in the primary. That's what would make sense. But I mean, you can either follow the money or you can listen to what they say. And the last time I checked, a lot of the Republicans have been lying. So you can trust them now if you want to. But the reality is that I don't know who drops $3 million right before the primary to attack someone that they really want to run against.
Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, thank you.
It's good to see you.
And
I actually think she made some pretty decent points there when she talks about not wanting to run against somebody, so you're dropping so much money. I would say it's definitely an indicator, right? If you're not that worried about her, especially in the primaries, why go through all of that? So I would say it's an indicator. Like I said, I've been watching this Senate race very closely. Jasmine Crockett, James Tellerico, they're both two people I'm very familiar with. I paid attention to them long standing. Jasmine has easily been leading James this entire race by 10 to 13 points. Easily. Most polls that I'm looking at, they're all showing the same thing. It's gotten a little tighter. Some polls show her lead at 10%. Some polls show her lead at 9%. But either way, she's led the entire time, especially when it comes to early voting. We'll see if that changes, right? We'll see if that changes as we get closer. But I believe today in Texas, it's the last day for early voting today. So we're going to go to the next clip, which we have Kamala Harris actually breaking her silence on President Trump's State of the Union speech. This was interesting. Aaron Pernes, a guy who we frequently watch on this channel, who I react to, and I watch his news clips. He actually got a chance to interview her. It was fairly decent. I just thought it was interesting. I wanted to share it with you guys because we haven't really seen Kamala out there like that, you know, since the presidential election has ended. So every time I kind of see her talking, I don't always cover it. It really depends on what she's talking about. But because this was the State of the Union, I thought, sure, I'll bring it to the channel. So let's take a listen to some of the things she had to say.
Pod's epic savings event has been extended. Now save up to 25% on moving and storage.
of children she has documented. Her children were born in the United States. And
if the 2024 election went a different way, last night the country would have heard from President Kamala Harris. Instead, the country heard from President Donald Trump. Today, I sat down with Vice President Harris to reflect on the 2024 loss, hear her thoughts on last night's address, and ask her the pointed questions about Iran, the upcoming 2026 midterm elections, and more. I want you to watch it. I want you to let me know what you think, and I want you to spread the word. The more you like, comment, share, engage, the more people see this. And I think everyone needs to see the Vice President's response to Donald Trump's address and what she would have said had she been essentially behind that podium. Here is my interview with Vice President Kamala Harris. I am so excited to be joined by Vice President Kamala Harris. Now, Madam Vice President, I got to get your reaction to last night's State of the Union address from the President of the United States. Did you watch it? What did you think?
I watched it. It was full of lies. And, you know, when he wasn't lying, it reminded me of our kids going to show and tell at school. It was nothing that was true about really how the American people right now, so many are suffering under the weight of high prices, unaffordable healthcare, unaffordable housing. And it was, you know, we've come to expect it. And, you know, some people have said it was really quite boring and that there was nothing very interesting about it because it's the same old, same old. The guy lying about what he intends to do, what he has done, and the state of our economy and the state of the world.
I got to ask you, he said that the State of the Union is strong. Do you agree?
Absolutely not. Let me tell you, Aaron, I've been traveling our country, you know, and in particular, I've been spending a lot of time in the South. Let me tell you, I was recently in Mississippi. I went grocery shopping with a mother of 3 children who has a weekly family food budget for the four of them of $150. We were at a discount grocery store, and she basically let me know that anything that was in the cart was going to be for her kids. I asked her, well, what is for you? And she said, whatever they don't eat, and this is when she started actually tearing up, whatever they don't eat, then she'll eat. She walked over to get bottled water because she can't drink tap water because the water is brown and toxic. This is America. I met with a parent of children. She is documented. Her children were born in the United States. And she is petrified and was telling me about women in her community who are not going to the hospital to give birth for fear of what might happen to them and their child. She also told me how her health insurance was previously $30 a month, has gone up to $85 a month, and she's probably not going to receive health care unless it's in the emergency room. This is America. And so when this guy is up there talking about the economy is roaring and, trying to evoke images, I guess, of the roaring 20s of a day gone by, he's lying. Who's it roaring for? When you put a $1 trillion cut to Medicaid, you know what Medicaid funds? Families with children, pregnant women, seniors, people with disabilities. A $1 trillion cut to Medicaid. Meanwhile, a $1 trillion tax cut for the richest people in America. That's what's happening in our country right now. So, there was entertainment value to what he did, but in terms of any substantive value to the people of America, I'd say it was lacking in every way.
Now, something else the president spoke about last night was the SAVE Act in the upcoming elections. He called on Congress to pass the SAVE Act. Is that something that you believe Congress should do?
Absolutely not. So let's break this down on voting rights. First of all, we know that we've been seeing a pattern over decades of an explicit attempt to destroy and gut the Voting Rights Act. And that already has started to take form, including that his Supreme Court, the majority that, he purposely selected people on the court that would destroy the Voting Rights Act. And they're about to decide on Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, which is the remaining piece that would allow people to sue if there is evidence of racial discrimination in the way that the lines are being drawn. The Supreme Court is about to get rid of Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. You look at what they did to initiate an attack on redistricting, right? Mid-decade. It's supposed to happen every decade around the census. They did it before then because they want to change the system to bend the rules and to cheat because they are so concerned that this guy is so unpopular because he's done nothing for the American people that they're going to wholesale lose the midterms. What else have they done? The SAVE Act. You know what the SAVE Act would do? Require that people show a birth certificate or a passport to register to vote. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but it's something like 40% of Americans don't have those documents. Married women, if you changed your name when you got married, it's going to be different than what's on your birth certificate, right? And what that's going to do in terms of complicating the ability of women to register to vote. And so this is happening in real time to suppress and obstruct the ability.
I'm not going to lie to you guys. I didn't watch this clip in its entirety. I don't watch every clip in its entirety before I come spend time with you guys. Some of the things Kamala was saying was difficult for me because I know sometimes she does the whole word salad thing. I know she can be a little bit confusing. I can tell you right now, she's not lying about the brown water part because I've already done research on that, and that's actually been a problem in Mississippi probably since 2022, if not before. But the specifics of what she's talking about regarding this whole voter thing, it is concerning to me. I still have to do some of my own research because I don't want to get caught up, if I'm honest with you guys, on just what Kamala Harris is saying. But I mean, some of it is troubling, to say the least. I'm going to go back a little bit.
to bend the rules and to cheat because they are so concerned that this guy is so unpopular because he's done nothing for the American people. The Supreme Court is about to get rid of Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. You look at what they did to initiate an attack on redistricting, right? Mid-decade. It's supposed to happen every day.
All right. Shout out to the chat. Shout out to the chat. Good morning, guys. Happy Friday. J986 says, go ahead and run. You'll lose again. Ha ha. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that that's what would happen. It's not necessarily because I can't stand Kamala Harris personally, but I mean, it is what it is. She got slaughtered. You can look at the map. It was a disrespectful map. Mr. Stretch, I don't have a passport. That's all right, Mr. Stretch. A lot of people don't have a passport. I actually didn't have one until I went into the Marine Corps. And I didn't even need it when I was on active duty. I actually just would travel with my CAT card. So I literally left the country with just a CAT card. You do that when you're on active duty. Ella Evans and the band played on. Shout out to you guys. Good morning. Good morning. Staying off the grid says she's hot. Dude, I'm not even going to get at you about that one. A lot of people think that about Kamala Harris. I felt so bad like for her during this election because like so many guys were like creeping out on her. They're like, oh, like Kamala Harris is hot. And I'm just like, dude, like Kamala Harris is like a married woman. Like she loves Doug. You know what I'm saying? But that didn't stop people from saying like, she can't be our president, but she is kind of hot. I thought that was just hilarious. I'm like, oh my goodness. All right, let's keep watching.
Decade around the census, they did it before then because they want to change the system to bend the rules and to cheat because they are so concerned that this guy is so unpopular because he's done nothing for the American people that they're going to wholesale lose the midterms. What else have they done? The SAVE Act. You know what the SAVE Act would do? Require that people show a birth certificate or a passport to register to vote. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but it's something like 40% of Americans don't have those documents. Certificate or a popular because he's done nothing for the American people that they're going to wholesale lose the midterms. What else have they done? The SAVE Act. You know what the SAVE Act would do? Require that people show a birth certificate or a passport to register to vote. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but it's something like 40% of Americans don't have those documents.
But that's why I went back. How can 40% of Americans not have a birth certificate? I can understand a passport. Everybody's not huge on going to other countries and traveling. I did a lot of that either on active duty or in my spare time. But no birth certificate? I mean, I guess, like, normally your parents had that. My mom had my birth certificate for most of my life. And then when I turned 18 and I went on active duty in the military, she gave it to me. So I'm, like, this is interesting to me. I'm like, 40% of Americans don't have a birth certificate. I mean, all you have to do is call the Vital Statistics office and they'll give it to you.
Married women, if you changed your name when you got married, it's going to be different than what's on your birth certificate, right? And what that's going to do in terms of complicating the ability of women to register to vote. And so this is happening in real time to suppress and obstruct the ability of people to vote. And then my concern, frankly, Aaron, is that when we saw what happened in Minneapolis, I think we need to really...
I mean, don't get me wrong. Let me comment a little bit more on that because the SAVE Act, like I see what she's saying now. Okay, so 40% of Americans don't have their birth certificate. I guess. I'm hoping that more than 40% of Americans have a state ID and that number's less when it comes to a state ID and or a driver's license. So I guess what she's saying now is that if the SAVE Act was passed, instead of just using your state ID or your driver's license, they actually would want you to show a birth certificate. Again, this is not a problem for me being born here as an American citizen. Maybe for some other people or maybe people who just don't have a birth certificate and now they have to call the Vital Statistics office and get one. But I mean, I guess I get it because if you have to show your birth certificate, that's the one way that they can prove that you were born in America, right? Do I think that that's a little drastic when it comes to voting? A little bit. I'm only going to say that because, like, as someone who has a driver's license, I mean, if I had to bring my birth certificate to vote, I wouldn't care. I would probably be a little annoyed, but I would still do it. But I mean, I still would feel some type of way that my driver's license in itself isn't good enough because I have to produce certain documentation to get a driver's license. You have to produce certain documentation to get a state ID. And normally one of those documents are a passport or a birth certificate, so or a green card or something like that. So I mean, I guess I can see why they're doing the birth certificate thing. That's the one way they can make sure that no one outside of being an American citizen is voting. It's a little overzealous, I think, though.
Understand that in addition to everything that was obvious about it, it might have been basically a demonstration and a beta testing.
Let me go back a little bit. Mr. Stretch said, it's not that easy to get your birth certificate. I mean, for some people, I can understand that. I didn't have a hard time getting mine when I needed it. I was just able to access it. But I know you're right, because sometimes they might ask for certain documentation, or you might have to pay a fee to actually get them to send it to you. And he has said so people don't have their real ID to vote. I have only had the USA ID. Yeah, I mean, I have my real ID, but some of that could be because when I came home and I was switching from active duty to reserve duty, like I had paperwork. I had military paperwork. For one thing, I had a DD-214. That's a document that you would have if you were in the military and now you're out. So just me presenting that documentation, I had a real ID before a real ID was required. So I've always had like the gold star shaded in, or whatever you have. Some people it looks different. But yeah, I know you're right, Mr. Stretch, where it's kind of tough to get your birth certificate for some people. I mean, that's why I said it's a little bit overzealous. You know, I can see why they're doing it, because they want to make sure no one outside of being a citizen is voting. It is a bit overzealous. It is, because for an American citizen that has a driver's license, and I've had a real ID, and I have the real ID on my driver's license currently, I would be a little annoyed by that.
To suppress and obstruct the ability of people to vote. And then my concern, frankly, Aaron, is that when we saw what happened in Minneapolis, I think we need to really understand that in addition to everything that was obvious about it, it might have been basically a demonstration and a beta testing of militarizing the streets of America to intimidate people against voting, and using federal officials to intimidate people to not vote. So
that's interesting that that's her take on ICE. I think that's a little bit of a stretch, but I guess I can see why she's saying it.
We need to be clear-eyed and alert to what might be at play around these midterms, because obviously he is one of the most unpopular presidents ever in the history of the United States. His agenda is one of the most unpopular in the way it has played out. And then, Aaron, I'll also say, let's be prepared. Because if, as many predict, we win the midterms, if we don't win by substantial numbers, I can see a situation where they find some reason to refuse to seat Democrats who win. And, we saw that happen around Grijalda and that situation.
No, come on, Kamala. Come on, Kamala. Come on. I mean, God, man. She's talking about the thing where Mike Johnson took a while to swear the lady in. I'm like, come on, Kamala. She's saying things like, be prepared. We're going to see things where Democrats that win, they're not going to seat them. I'm like, oh, God. See, when she starts doing this is when I get annoyed.
And they delayed it for weeks. I could see the same thing happening. And look, the election in the midterms is one of the, if not the only way that in the immediate future we can put some checks on the abuse of power coming from Donald Trump and this administration. It's one of the only ways. We still have 3 co-equal branches of government.
I get annoyed by this stuff. I get extremely annoyed by this stuff. We were in a shutdown. Mike Johnson was clear. He's like, in a shutdown, we don't do this. I get it if some of you guys are like, well, they did it before. Listen, He's saying, I'm following rules that were already set in place. But if they're going to come up and they're going to start saying, no, they didn't put Grijalva in place because she's a Spanish woman and she won, and like they're all white supremacists, so I'm like, dude, I'm not in the mood for this crap. Like, I'm really not. When Kamala starts doing this, I'm not interested.
And this Congress, led by the Republicans right now, is feckless. They have abandoned their responsibility, whether it be power of the purse or the power to make decisions about war. They have ceded their responsibility. You know, it's interesting. The founders talked about how, we can imagine that we'll have a Congress that will jealously guard.
Hi, it's Nancy Pelosi. I'm reaching out to you because the stakes are too high.
Their power.
Stop it, Nancy.
They didn't predict this group. So let's be alert and continue, as is happening all over the country, to organize people around the power of their voice in so many ways, whether it's those incredible people who showed up in Minneapolis coming out of their homes in the cold with a whistle to blow and alert people about a harm that is happening in their community, whether they're pulling out their smartphones to make sure that we document these abuses. What we're seeing around the country with people who are running for office who have never run before and they're winning. You know, one of the things that happened last night in Pennsylvania, 2 elections that, you know, some predicted could never have happened, wasn't possible. Democrats winning. So we've got momentum, and we must be alert because there are powerful forces intentionally attempting to destroy our democracy and the voice of the people. And the power, however, still remains with the people. And so we know what we got to do.
Now, I got to ask, you mentioned the power of Congress to declare war. Donald Trump last night mentioned Iran. Again, we currently have the largest military buildup in the Middle East since 9/11. As vice president, you were deeply involved in foreign policy efforts for...
All right, Daryl Collins, you're obviously bored. I don't know why you're in my live stream this early in the morning cursing, but do something with yourself. Fix yourself or I'm going to ban you.
For several years, do you believe, based on what you know, that war in Iran would be justified?
Well, first of all, let's just go back to recent history. Remember, he said that he completely eviscerated their program? Remember, many of us talked about the fact that that was complete and utter BS. We knew it. But he insisted, I got rid of the whole thing. And now he is sending American troops to the region with the very real potential that American men and women will be deployed to combat. And what I know to be true is the American people do not want another war and do not want our sons and daughters sent to initiate action that is and can be avoided through diplomacy, through a number of things, but including through just honesty. The guy shouldn't have lied in the first place to suggest that he wiped out the program, and now he's got to back up, you know, I guess his ego and have this display of force. To what end? What the American people don't want is that the end of that is about the lives of our young men and women being killed, being ended because of his ego and his incompetence as it relates to foreign policy. And it bears mentioning that our allies on this issue do not agree with the tack that the president has taken. And part of America's strength globally, whether it be through what historically was one of the strongest and most effective military treaties in the world, NATO, through the partnership that we have had that is in many cases based in history of allyship and consistency and truth and standing for international rules and norms, He is weakening across the board. America's strength, as much as anything, is yes, because of the best military in the world. It is also because we have cultivated allies who stand with us when we are in a position where we believe that there may be conflict. And he has weakened to such an extreme extent the relationships between America and allied nations. That does not bode well for national security.
Now, before I let you go, looking at the State of the Union today, I think a lot of folks watching this would have wished that you were behind the podium last night instead of Donald Trump. Is there anything that you regret from the 2024 campaign that could have changed last night's reality?
Aaron, come on, Aaron. So, Aaron Parnes, I understand why he's saying what he's saying. There probably are some people that felt like that, and I know for sure that there are, because after the State of the Union address, you can see it. There are people that are like, God, I wish I didn't have to listen to Trump. But what side are we saying that on? Like, what side are we saying that on? Because we saw all the Democrats do the same thing they did the first State of the Union address. I was frustrated that they keep sitting down. They keep being disrespectful. I get it. They don't like the guy. They hate it. I can't believe Trump won. Are we not past that? Like, he's already the president of the United States. I hate the lack of support. Like, when there are other countries, and I've told you guys already, a lot of my perspective is going to come from me being a military service member, me being a veteran. So it's like, there's just certain things that I just can't get with. I don't think it's respectful. You cannot like the president. You don't have to agree with the president. But the public disrespect, I'm not going to be able to get with it. Like, you don't have to agree with him. You don't have to like him. But I don't think you need to go out of your way to just do and say certain things. It's childish.
Oh, I have many regrets. I mean, I wrote a book about it, right? And so here, I'll just say, read the book, everybody. But yeah, there were so many variables at play in the election, and I think that for me and my state of mind, my focus is not on what could have been as much as what we need to do right now, and the vision we need to have for the future of our country. That's where my head is.
All right. Well, Vice President Harris, thank you so much for joining me today.
It's good to be with you. Take care.
Hey, folks. Thanks so much for watching.
All right. Shout out to Aaron. Shout out to Aaron for bringing us that. I appreciate him covering that. You know, there are some polls, depending on which one you're paying attention to, that actually show Kamala Harris doing pretty decently in the polls. I know that that's not something people want to see. She's not doing as good as Gavin Newsom is doing in some predicted 2028 presidential polls, but she's actually still up there. She's higher than the likes of AOC, for sure. People like Stephen A. Smith, and there are a couple others. I think she's doing better than God. What's this guy's name? Man, it'll come to me. Skinny guy, white guy, gay guy, pretty well known. God, I'm drawing a blank on his name. Chat, you know his name? He's one of the guys that could be a potential presidential 2028 candidate. It's not Josh Shapiro. He's from Pennsylvania. It's a different guy. Pete Buttigieg. Pete is Pete. That's who I was thinking about. She's even higher than Pete and Josh Shapiro, but she's not higher than Gavin Newsom. So you guys check those polls out when you get a chance. We're gonna jump over now to the next clip. We have Bill O'Reilly on State of the Union speech. After Bill O'Reilly, we're gonna go over to CNN and listen to the panel of voters that are in swing states and what they thought about the State of the Union speech that President Trump delivered. But first, let's go to Bill O'Reilly. He's going to talk a little bit about, you know, the State of the Union speech, the impact, and how it impacts us. So let's go over there.
The average dog only lives to be 10. That's 10 birthdays.
Sam, roll it.
We have a nut job on.
Hey, Bill O'Reilly here. Welcome to another. Basically, turn things around our lives. Hey, Bill O'Reilly here. Welcome our lives. So President Trump, who is in a bit of trouble in the polling because of high prices in America, basically turned things around, at least temporarily. And he did that by being pretty clever. He set a number of traps for his Democratic opposition. Now, as in every State of the Union address, the president gets to pick and choose who he wants to spotlight. And Mr. Trump brought in the U.S. hockey team. Couple of veterans got the Congressional Medal of Honor. He brought in some victims of crime, and it was effective. It was good television, as they say. But the big thing was the bomb he dropped on his opposition, the Democratic Party, the Congress people sitting in the chamber. So he set it up this way. What about America first in protecting U.S. citizens? Shouldn't that come before foreign nationals? Here's the SOT.
One of the great things about the State of the Union is how it gives Americans the chance to see clearly what their representatives really believe. So tonight I'm inviting every legislator to join with my administration in reaffirming a fundamental principle. If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens.
Now, see, I got to watch the State of the Union live because you guys know, some of you guys that were with me, you saw me live stream it, and I live streamed it last year as well. And the Democrats did this crap too, but specifically to this question that Bill O'Reilly is saying Trump is asking. He's not saying anything horrible here. He's saying that the job of America first is first to protect the legal United States citizens, not illegal aliens, right? What is wrong with that statement? Somebody please tell me what's wrong with that statement. He didn't say illegal aliens didn't matter. He didn't say he didn't care about them. He didn't say we could throw them all in the trash, right? He literally said that it should be to protect American citizens first, not illegal aliens first, right? The Democrats couldn't stand. They couldn't even sit down and clap about this. And this is where I was like, man, the Democrats is on something different.
So Democrats did not stand up. And Trump scolded them. Okay, so if you're a partisan on the Democratic side, that doesn't bother you. All right, because you are sympathetic to what the Democrats are rolling out, compassion for illegal migrants. The other side is the same way. Law and order, they shouldn't be here. This is the Republican side. But it's that great voter turnout in the middle of non-ideological people. And so when President Trump and his speechwriters set that trap, if I had been the Democratic leader, which is Chuck Schumer in the Senate, I would have been anticipating something like that. So that I would have said to my membership, stand up, all right? Because our first duty is to protect American citizens by the Constitution. So stand up. Take the issue away. But that didn't happen. Because the Democrats, number one, don't have any effective leadership in Congress. And number two, they are fervently in the camp that Trump is an oppressor, that he is illegally treating foreign nationals in an unconstitutional way. But you don't have to repudiate that stance by standing up and saying, yeah, Americans have to come first in the protection list. You don't. Anyway, when I say the Democrats don't have any leadership, I mean that literally. There's no leader to the party. And the shots are being called by far-left financiers, people who fund campaigns. So it used to be Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, pretty much controlled the Senate, the House of Representatives, by saying either you follow the Democratic line or you don't get any money. We're not going to give you any campaign money. And Pelosi was ferocious. She was a leader of the Democratic Party, but no longer. Hakeem Jeffries not nearly as strong. as Pelosi is now in charge.
Yeah, I would agree a lot with what Bill's saying here. Like, we might not like it, but the fact of the matter is that since she's been gone, I mean, you have people that are going to say, well, what about Chucky? And I'm like, Chuck Schumer, sometimes I feel like that candle, like his light's burning out. I mean, he still has some zeal in him. He'll still stand up and say certain things, but I feel like Chuck's time is approaching, and the Democrats struggle with this. Like, they struggle on passing the baton. We see that a lot. Like, Democrats tend to be like lifelong in their positions. They do not want to leave. I think some of the oldest people we have in the Senate, if I'm not mistaken, they are on the Democratic side. So it is, and we've seen the younger people in that party, the likes of the AOC, some of the Jasmine Crockett's, like Mamdani, some of the people have said things like, the Democratic Party struggles with allowing the younger generation to kind of come up and take the reins. It seems like the Republican Party is doing better in that particular area.
So the Trump people knew that they, could cloak themselves in the flag as Pelosi.
Also, I know a lot of people who were happy to see Nancy Pelosi leave, but I know a lot of people that feel like what Bill O'Reilly is saying right now, and ever since she's been gone, it feels like the Democrats have even less of a leader, right? Who are you going to put there? I mean, you can say Chuck Schumer, you can say Hakeem Jeffries, but I'm kind of going with Bill O'Reilly here. Do you see the leadership in them? Sure. Same type of leadership of Nancy Pelosi? No. And I don't need you guys to get in the chat and be like, well, what kind of leadership are you talking about, Q? Like, her infamous stock trading. It's like, I don't care about that. But what I'm saying is that Bill O'Reilly is making a good point here. Like, she was ferocious in a lot of her leadership, and what we see right now on the Democratic side, they're just, I just don't see them putting that out there right now.
Pelosi is now in charge. So the Trump people knew that they, could cloak themselves in the flag, which they did. And patriotism is a very strong emotional lure for voters. And they could set a trap for their opposition as far as putting Americans first. So it was a very clear, well thought out trap, and it worked. Now, the opposition to Trump got hysterical. Here's an example. Roll it.
We have a nutjob wannabe king who's doing everything he can to censor opinions he doesn't want to hear. He has his goons arresting, incarcerating, and killing American citizens. He's got funding for cancer research at children's hospitals, while he rakes in literally billions of dollars for himself and his family. He's coming after our right to vote.
Okay, that's just hysterical stuff. And Congresswoman Omar screaming, "You're killing Americans" in the State of the Union. It doesn't help.
No, it doesn't. It's ridiculous.
Once again, if you are a real rabid anti-Trump person, you're not offended by Kimmel and Omar and AOC because you hate Trump or you dislike him dramatically.
Right.
But the big middle of the country, they don't like that stuff. So the radical left has more power within the Democratic Party than it ever has in the history of the radical left movement, which has been around for about 125 years. Okay, and the radical left has a lot of power in that party. You know that because of the money.
Oh yeah.
Because Congress people need money to run every 2 years, and the radical left gives it to Democratic Congress people who toe the line, and they all do. And it is very interesting. Final point I want to make is in the midterms, 8 months from now, about 150 million people voted in the presidential election. That's going to go below 100 million in the midterm. So the bubble people, the floater people, they don't pay attention. They'll come out for the presidential race, but very rarely in the midterms. Where that is decided is in the very few independent precincts. So the hate Trumpers are going to vote Democrat. The people who loathe the Democratic Party and the radical left will vote Republican. But that margin, and I'm telling you, the radical left does not appeal to independent voters. It does not. The Kimmels of the world, the De Niros of the world, the Omars, the AOCs, they want enormous changes to this country. They don't like capitalism. They don't want to punish criminals, on and on. Independents don't like that.
No.
So it's a toss-up.
Yeah.
That's where we are. A lot of things are going to happen in the next 8 months, I should say. Thank you for spending time with me, Bill O'Reilly. We'll see you again soon.
You know, Bill makes a great point here, because that is true. We're going to see those numbers dwindle like nothing ever, because that's what happens. They'll come out for the presidential candidate, not the midterms. I agree with him here when it comes to the radical left. Independents don't rock with them. They don't like it. It's too much. And some of the things that they want to do, they're overwhelmed by it. They feel like it's overzealous. So if the independent party was going to fall anywhere, they would fall, I would say, more moderate left if they didn't fall to the moderate conservative side. And that's where it is a toss-up. It is. But what I can say is, working up to the midterms, where we've seen these little races happen locally in different places, like, the Democrats are taking it. Like, they're taking it. And I'm not shocked by this. Like, I was pretty confident leaving 2025. By the time we were like mid-January, I was like, I don't like the way this looks. By the time we got to the middle of February, I was like, this doesn't look good for the Republicans. So I'm not saying that they're necessarily going to lose everything, but I do think that they are going to lose something, because a lot of those local elections, if you guys are paying attention to them, the Democrats are taking them. And Kamala Harris, she was the one who pointed this out. She's right about those two elections that happened in Pennsylvania. They both were taken by Democrats. So nonetheless, like, we'll just keep watching as we work up to the midterms, like Bill O'Reilly said, about 8 months from now. But I do believe what he said, and that these numbers are going to look very different, because it's not the 2028 presidential election yet. People are going to go for kind of who they want to, but it's not going to be the radical left. It's not even going to be the radical right. I don't think independents are going to land with either one of those. So what we're going to do now is go over to CNN. And it's not by any means, it's not my favorite platform. And you guys that rock out with me a lot know that, right? We watch both sides so we can collect information, because both sides lie to us. So we got to do what we have to do, right? And putting things together. The reason why I chose the CNN panel is because they are in swing states, and they've taken voters from swing states specifically to react to President Trump's State of the Union address. So I want us to take a look at that.
So if you want to dish the GMOs and industrial processed ingredients and upgrade your meat stick today,
CNN Voter live cast. CNN senior political contributors Van Jones and Scott Jennings have been pounding beers and eating popcorn and watching the State of the Union. They're doing a special CNN Voter live cast. Saginaw was one of two counties in that crucial swing state to flip from Biden to Trump. Michigan is home to several key midterm contests later this year. Tonight, Van and Scott are joined by 10 voters, 4 Democrats, 4 Republicans, and 2 independents who watched tonight's speech. Van and Scott, walk us through the reaction in the room to the president's address.
Well, half of us were miserable, and the other half were delighted. And we're going to get a chance to hear from everybody. Look, I think the most important thing I can say is that people here who are not in Washington, D.C., who are on the ground, look at this stuff very, very differently. You did not like this speech at all. Tell me why.
I didn't like the speech because he did not talk about what he was doing to make our lives better. As Governor Spanberger said, is the president working to make our lives better? No. James Carville said, it's the economy. And it still is the economy. And he's not talking about that at all.
Wait, what about the Trump accounts? What about the tax cuts? Did that move you at all? Did that make you feel like he's on your side?
Right, so we got, and I see why Van is asking this, because he's bringing up the things that Kamala Harris said. Basically, it made her think about her kids when they go to show and tell. Some of the things that Trump is talking about. I didn't say that these things were bad. I said that they were good, right? The Trump accounts, certain things that he's doing, let's say for like newborn babies, the $1,000 that they get right away, 401ks have skyrocketed, the stock market's doing good. This stuff is going to benefit people who are into this type of stuff. Because I can tell you guys right now, the first time around when Trump was in office, I wasn't even paying that much attention to my portfolio account. I literally wasn't. I was invested. I think I was just matching or doing something like that. And I really didn't care too much about it. Over the years, my financial literacy has increased substantially. So my portfolio looks a lot better. I'm talking about in just not even a year's time frame. Like I've done things on my own, like seeing my portfolio jump 38 to 40K, right? So it's doing substantially well. But people who are concerned about everyday life, day-to-day life, they do not care about this. And the reason why I know this is particularly because the way that I look. Black and brown people, right? I'm not saying all of us, but a lot of us do not put our attention on retirement, 401ks, and things of that nature. Trust me, I know this because I work with plenty of African Americans that if you go to them, if they are invested at all in their portfolios, they are matching. So it's whatever the employee's giving them, they're just going to match that. A lot of people are comfortable with matching 3, 4, 5, 6%, and they're not going to go above that. My financial literacy is a little different, so I'm a lot higher than that. But that's because I'm saving for my future. So for me, things like retirement, what my 401k is doing, how my HSA is doing, how my IRA is doing, how my Roth is doing, all of this stuff matters to me, and I'm extremely engaged in it. But people who are not doing this don't care. They don't want to hear about it. They're tired of hearing about it. Don't bring it up, right? So when this lady is saying like he didn't talk about everyday life, believe it or not, like that's relatable to most people that watch the State of the Union. Most people that watch the State of the Union, they are not, I'm not saying that none of these people are there. They are, because you have politicians, you have different people. A lot of people are invested, but a lot of these people are tuning in just to see what is the president going to say. Is he going to say anything different? Is he going to talk about how he's going to change something more? Is he going to refer to the economy? And when people didn't see a lot of that, I think that was the huge turnoff.
No. No, it did not.
Why not?
He talked at all.
Wait, what about the Trump accounts? What about the tax cuts? Did that move you at all? Did that make you feel like he's on your side?
No. No, it did not.
Why not?
He talked about the healthcare plan. Where is his healthcare plan? People's health insurance premiums are going up. What is he doing for that? What is he doing for our seniors?
And just left you flat, but
Erica, you are a Trump supporter. You liked the speech, and you had some positive things to say. What did you think?
Yep, I'm glad he addressed the tax breaks. I haven't done ours yet, but I know there will be a huge change with the children tax break, and my husband works a lot of overtime, so I'm excited to see what that does. I think no senior should pay Social Security taxes. And then I liked how, I wish he would have stayed more on Iran, because I was already wondering and trying not to worry about it, but kind of not paying attention. But it sounds like he said if they're not going to go to nuclear, we don't have to do the effort. Find out. We don't want to find out.
Yeah, his preference was diplomacy.
Right.
Yeah.
But he will find out if he has to.
Yeah. Well, I'm so curious about how you saw it.
The thing that I missed the most was a focus on the economy and looking forward. And Supreme Court struck the tariffs down, and he's going for another round of tariffs. And I also think that's the wrong direction. Tariffs cost our company a lot of money. Our costs are up, and we need to control our costs. And, without, raising rates, we can't give raises to our employees. We can't help them. So I'm stuck in that kind of vicious cycle of raise the rates, prices go up, raise the rates, and, how do we continue that?
So he didn't help you at all on the tariff stuff at all. But you said that you enjoyed this speech and that there were moments that moved you. What moved you about this speech?
Well, the celebrating people is always good, but again, that $18 trillion investment, the $25 million in Trump accounts. But I did hear something on the health care, right? We have a law, the Obamacare, the ACA, and we don't have we don't have a way around it, and it's really just pooled care that's gone up every year. And this most favored nation, he's taken a stab at lowering the cost for us. And unless the legislature acts, he's at least doing something that's going to hit our pocketbook.
I think the part of the speech that's probably going to live on for most Republicans is when he asked the Congress, stand up if you think your duty is first to American citizens before illegal aliens. Republicans stood up. He gave him his most sustained applause for the night. I suspect, man, you're going to see this in a lot of campaign ads, that Democrats wouldn't stand up. What did you all think of the showmanship of that, or of sort of the spectacle of trying to get Democrats to stand up?
Okay, so showmanship and spectacle. I can actually appreciate that Scott Jennings used these terminologies, because I know a lot of people felt this way when President Trump scolded the Democrats. here's my take on this. As a veteran, so I know a lot of you aren't going to agree with me. A United States military veteran, I served in the Marine Corps. I don't like this. I don't like when the Democrats do this, right? It's not about me being 100% conservative or supporting Trump's cabinet. I don't care about any of that. I always get on a live stream and I always say, we look stupid when we do this. When other world leaders are watching, it looks like, look at the stupid Americans that have no respect for their government. We are one of the few countries, if not the only, that we can get on a public platform and disrespect a world leader, and we are not executed. We do not get in trouble for it. The terroristic threats are a real thing, and that's why, I don't know if you guys paid attention to that whole Rob De Niro. Bill O'Reilly is like, Rob De Niro can get charged with threatening President Trump. Terroristic threats against the United States president is a real thing. It's just because in America we're spoiled brats. We're one of the few people that can get on a public platform and be like, oh, our second lady is a G, or our second lady goes to India and eats crap. Like, we're the only country that does dumb stuff like this because we don't get in trouble for it. I don't like it. So I understand people saying like, well, Trump should have just kept on with his speech. He didn't have to scold the Democrats. I feel like he did. There was a couple of times where he's like, these people are ridiculous. They don't even want to stand up. I can't stand watching things like that. I get it. We don't have to like President Trump. He's the freaking president. It is what it is. If Joe Biden was the president or Kamala Harris, it would be the same thing. So it's like, dude, once the person wins, that's it. You give your world leader respect and you just keep it moving. I really can't get with like what the Democrats do at the State of the Union when they don't agree. It's like, I just think it's so childish and stupid.
Well, I think the point, I think that and it may have gotten a little muddled, but in the showmanship, but I think his point is valid. Everybody in that room represents the citizens in this country.
Yeah, exactly.
And are you doing your job? He should, the governor asked, is Trump doing his job? Trump asked, are all of you doing your job?
But don't you think it was just kind of a cheap stunt? To just, you're somebody who's been in politics for a long time. To me, it seemed like a stunt. No matter what Trump told Democrats, stand up if I say anything. If he said stand up if you like puppies, they would have said we like kittens. There's no way they were going to stand up. So to me, he was just trying to make Democrats look bad. But should they have stood up, Pastor?
The role should be to unify the country. I think this was the opportunity for us to come together as one. We're not a state.
No way they were going to stand up. So to me, he was just trying to make Democrats look bad. But should they have stood up, Pastor?
Okay. That's why I went back, because I wanted to make sure that Van Jones called him pastor. And the way the pastor answered, now you guys know I do a lot of work in ministry. That's some of my answers coming from being a veteran. Some of it's coming from being a Christian. This is what I'm talking about. The pastor says, at the end of the day, we all need to look united as a country. This is what I'm talking about. This looks crazy to world leaders. I know somebody like Putin can see a State of the Union address and just laugh. I know it, because it's like, dude, at the end of the day, it's disrespectful towards the world leader. And we are one of the only countries that we will blatantly, on a public platform, disrespect the world leader. And we'll look at it like, so what? We have freedom of speech.
The role should be to unify the country. I think this was the opportunity for us to come together as one. We're not states of red or blue states, but we're the United States.
Would you have stood up if you were a Democrat and Donald Trump said, stand up if you are against illegal immigrants, whatever he said, would you have stood up?
I would have respected our country, and I would have stood to my standards. I would have stayed to my who I know who I am, and left at that.
You should be a politician. He's a better politician than me.
All right. We have a minute left here. We're in Michigan. We're in Michigan. We can see Canada from here, almost.
Kind of.
Did everybody love the hockey team? Yeah, this unified America. We took their sport. We took their gold medal. Jack Hughes, our guy, he took their hot chicks. He's dating one of their hot chicks right now. It's amazing. I know. That's what I'm saying.
2 gold medals. The women won 2.
And the president acknowledged the women, and he said they're coming to the White House, which I thought was a great thing. So here in Michigan, Anderson, I have to say, I think the hockey moment was unifying, probably in this particular area more than anywhere else in the country. Everybody, Republicans, Democrats, even Van, even poor Van, on a miserable night said the American hockey team is a great thing.
I
admit it. Good thing.
That was a good thing, though. I will say they should mess with these Canadians and it's messing up y'all's economy.
That's a funny thing. I kind of agree with Scott Jennings there. Well, at least one of the points, other than when President Trump asked everybody to stand up, if you agree with this statement and asked about the job of America first is to protect the citizens first, not the illegal aliens. So I agree with Scott Jennings there. Shout out to the USA hockey team. My wife's a huge hockey fan. So shout out to them for taking that gold medal.
I mean, no tourists are coming down here, so let's be nice, be a little bit nicer to the Canadians, but I'm glad we would.
All right, Anderson,
it's
that's
nice
what we got out here in
nice
Michigan. We got a lot of opinions out
here. It's nice to see the heated rivalry between you guys. You can watch it later, Scott. My panel is here with me in Washington. I do want to play something that President Trump said about affordability, which is obviously something that the governor spoke about as well. Let's watch.
Have you heard about pop-on roofing? We need 50 homeowners in your area to trial this radically simple new roof.
The same people in this chamber who voted for those disasters suddenly used the word affordability, a word they just used it. Somebody gave it to them, knowing full well that they caused and created the increased prices that all of our citizens had to endure. You caused that problem. You caused that problem. They knew their statements were a dirty, rotten lie. Their policies created the high prices. Our policies are rapidly ending them. And I will soon be presenting Connor with our highest civilian honor, which we will be given and which has been given to many athletes over the years. But when I say many, not too many, like 12, it's called the highest civilian honor in our country, the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
It was the song about hockey.
You know what I thought was actually really interesting, just listening to those voters and Americans, they were really focused on the economy. Yep. And I think that the red meat applause lines that Scott mentioned about stand up if you believe that you're supposed to be working for U.S. citizens, that definitely works really well for the partisans. But the regular people, their takeaways were all about the economy. They were about healthcare. They were about tariffs. They were about the cost of living. They were about exactly what we've been talking about this whole time. And I think that is very instructive because that moment where Trump got his biggest applause line in the room, I don't know if it will resonate as much as the White House might want it to be, and it certainly is not going to be the thing that this midterm is going to be.
I think one of the problems that he has is that people see these things as distractions. They don't think he's focused on the thing that is most important to them, the thing that was most important to them when they elected him. They don't think he's delivering on that. And even the things that his supporter mentioned there, there is not $18 trillion in new investments here. Everybody knows the economy in their communities have slowed. They're worried about their jobs. This most favored nation piece on drugs applies to like 40 drugs of the 23,000 prescription drugs are out there. So people know they're not paying less for their prescriptions. And I think that is the challenge because he is selling something that they don't feel or see and they don't think he's really focused on it.
Yeah, I agree with him. And they don't think he cares about it. And that's why I said I mentioned the things that Trump can mention and it actually does affect me. And I do care about it and I do care how good it's doing. But when you think about what the gentleman right now is saying, it's like that's not the focus. That's part of the reason why everyone is so upset. The day-to-day citizen is just not, they don't care where the Dow is. They don't care about NYSE. They don't care about NASDAQ. So they do care about health and they do care about healthcare. I think this is where the term, the lady Mallory, I got to find her channel, but she said, don't piss on my leg and tell me that it's raining. And that's the thing, like President Trump keeps saying to the everyday person, like the economy is getting cheaper, the economy, we're doing better, we're dropping this price, we're doing that. And the everyday person is like, no, we're not buying it. Like, I know what it feels like to me. I don't feel like what you're saying is real.
Well,
let's unpack this.
Yeah, like
okay, so
30 seconds.
his line, their policies created the high prices, our policies are rapidly ending them. That is going to be the line that they keep driving, which is they are responding and trying to bring down what Biden brought to them, which is pain. First Trump administration, unrivaled economic success that drove him back to the White House. That's the reason why he got elected this time. So the assumption here was that he would deliver bigly. And the American people are yet to feel that. And without feeling it, no visual, no audio will move them off that unless they can feel it. That's what the Republicans have to work with.
The reason they had those expectations was because he set those expectations and said that he was going to deliver quickly, that he was going to bring down costs, and he did not do that.
Let me show you something that makes me feel.
All right, so the voter ID, the SAVE Act, and claims of election fraud. Shout out to Bakari Sellers. Bakari is a channel favorite, somebody who we react to on the channel very often. Again, like I said, CNN, not my favorite panel at all by any means. Right over there with MSNBC. But like I said, I like to watch both sides. I want to see what they talked about as far as like some of the SAVE Act, voter fraud and things like that. So let's get into what the panel had to talk about.
I'm asking you to approve the Save America Act.
Now, for those of you that have been watching the live stream since I started it, I think it was the second clip we played where Kamala Harris talked about why the SAVE Act is troubling to her. Those of you that don't support Kamala, I'm not saying go over there and watch her, or I'm not saying even go back. You can go back on here and watch the second clip to see what she said. Some of the things she said is concerning to me. Not much of it because it doesn't affect me. Like, I can produce any documentation that I'm asked for, but some of that also comes from me just having a lot of my documents just ready. Whereas Mr. Stretch, shout out to Mr. Stretch in the chat, he mentioned that it's not easy for everybody to get a birth certificate. I do understand that. Sometimes they'll ask for a certain fee. Sometimes they might ask for certain documentation. But usually if you call Vital Statistics and you can prove that you're you can get your birth certificate. I can see why they would want this, right? It definitely weeds out anybody who's not a citizen and who's trying to vote. They won't be able to do that if a requirement is your birth certificate. So I get it. Like, your state ID and your driver's license is different, right? You can be a non-U.S. citizen but have that particular ID card or driver's license, and you can still go vote. So I can see why they would say, you know, we want to take this a step further and you have to produce your birth certificate. But I still feel like it's a bit overzealous. As someone who's always had a real ID since I've been home from the military, I've always had my documentation. I have access to my birth certificate. I have a real ID on my driver's license now. This would be annoying to me if I had to literally produce a birth certificate when I have everything else, including a real ID, in order to go vote. So I can see if they push this and the act pass, and maybe they're more stringent on people that can't produce a real ID. But for people that have a real ID, that you want them to bring a birth certificate to the voting polls, I think that's a bit overzealous, to say the least.
To stop illegal aliens and others who are unpermitted persons from voting in our sacred American elections. The cheating is rampant in our elections. It's rampant. Why would anybody not want voter ID? One reason, because they want to cheat. There's only one reason. Cheating is rampant in our elections. It's rampant. Why would anybody not want voter ID? One reason, because they want to cheat. There's only one reason.
He says the cheating is rampant, and yet he can't prove it. If it was so rampant, then prove it.
Well, in 2020, you can point to just Zuckerbucks alone beat him. Or you can point to the censorship on the Hunter Biden laptop. That was enough in 4 swings.
Okay. He said what? Cheating? Let me just, I don't want us to get off topic here. He said cheating in elections. He's talking about voter fraud.
I know.
He says it is rampant. I'm asking.
Okay, let's be real about this, Abby. Part of the reason why you're saying to prove it is because we don't want to go back to what Trump is going to say. And what Trump is going to say, he's going to say the 2020 election was stolen from him, right? That's what he's going to say. And everybody hates that he says this, but this is where he's talking about voter ID and there being a lot of fraud, right? Okay, so they don't want to talk about that part because to them, Joe Biden won fair and square. There's nothing to talk about. Trump is just a sore loser. Even though there were so many people that watched those polls, and when we all went to sleep, we saw who was winning, and then when we woke up, we saw what happened. It is what it is. Trump harps on this more than anybody else, but that's what he's referring to. So when they're saying things like, well, prove it. If it's so rampant, prove it. I'm like, come on. Like now you're just being a little bit facetious here. You know exactly what he's talking about.
The President of the United States to prove it. They have asked all the states, they've gotten it from a dozen states or so, to give them their voter rolls. Why have they not been able to prove that rampant fraud?
So those voter roll disputes are cleaning millions of people off the voter rolls.
Show me the proof of fraud. That's all I'm asking. Where's the fraud?
Because names on those voter rolls are voted.
There is one truth about voter fraud in the United States, and that is that it does not exist any degree of consequence anywhere in this country. And I know that for a fact because the Republican Party has proved it to me. For decades, Republicans have searched high and low in every corner of this country with massive budgets, the power of subpoena, presidential commission, the Department of Justice, legislative committees, state legislatures, academics, think tanks, conservative media. They have looked everywhere. The Heritage Foundation has a fraud tracker. They've looked at elections dating back to the 1970s. That's billions of votes. Not every single vote, but billions of votes. And if you look at it the other day, 1,620 cases of proven fraud. Now, I think it is fair to say that this is a solution in search of a problem.
Wait a minute. How much fraud is okay?
We just completed this heat pump installation for a homeowner who wanted to cut their heating costs and upgrade to the
I would say zero.
It depends on if you're going to disenfranchise Americans who have the right.
How much fraud is okay?
So they tried this in Kansas, and they looked at and they found a handful. I think less than 20.
So that's that number of fraud.
If that had gone through, they would have disenfranchised.
No one's disenfranchised. That's not true. Every person who's eligible to vote can register and can vote. It's the easiest country to vote in the world.
Yes, but
why is it crazy?
That's what's crazy. Like, he literally just now said it himself. He's like, it's the easiest country in the world to vote in, right? So that means it's one of the easiest country to commit voter fraud, right? But he won't say that in the same sentence. Come on, man, you guys got to be fair. Come on, CNN.
It's not because this is what drives me nuts. This is not a voter ID bill. Stop saying that.
Are you for voter ID?
Voter ID, fine. We're here. This is not voter ID.
Talk about what the issue is in the Save Act. The issue is proving your citizenship. Voter ID is what they did in Indiana back in 2004, 2006. Voter ID is when you show up, you have to present an ID which proves your residency in the state. What people have done throughout the states is say that, look, if you don't have a driver's license, you can use a utility bill. You can use a college bill, a college ID.
That's not voter ID.
That actually is not voter ID.
No, photo.
That right there, I don't agree with Bakari on that. Like, if you don't have your state ID or your driver's license, then you can use a utility bill. No, sir. Not to vote. You can't. That's ridiculous to me. Now, see, this is the type of stuff that'll make me be like, yeah, the Save Act is not that bad, because I've never seen that happen. I can't think of a time where I went to go vote and they were like, you can bring this, but that's probably because I had the proper documentation. But if they are doing that, I can tell you right now, as an American citizen, I'm not okay with that.
ID issued by the government. You should have to have one of those.
You know what's crazy? What we're talking about is disenfranchising.
They're only 50% of Americans don't have a valid birth certificate or passport. That is what's required under the Save Act.
Bro, and it's like, that's what I'm saying. Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, Bakari, if you listen to those numbers, 50% of Americans don't have that documentation. That doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't. I know that there can be instances of someone not having a birth certificate, especially like the people who have the hardest time with these type of documents are actually homeless people. So it's like they don't have an address, right, to get it mailed to. They usually don't have the fee that the Vital Statistics Office is going to ask for. Like, at the end of the day, 40 to 50% of American citizens not having a birth certificate is crazy work to me. We don't have to always walk around with our birth certificate. So I get why a lot of people are like, what is that? There's no need for that. But I have access to my birth certificate. If I wanted to pull it out right now, I could. So it like that, like to me, that's just crazy work.
No, that's not voter ID. What is it? It's the same as real ID and then a whole bunch of stuff.
So when you try and get your ID, you need two proofs of citizenship. Most of the time, or proofs of identification. Most of the time, it is a birth certificate. If you have a birth certificate, then you can use a utility bill. Neither one of those have your photo on it, I want to point out. If you don't have a birth certificate, you need like proofs of identification. Most of the time, it is a birth certificate. If you have a birth certificate, two proofs of citizenship. Most of the time,
it's the same as real ID and then a whole bunch of stuff.
So when you try and get your ID, you need two proofs of citizenship. Most of the time, or proofs of identification. Most of the time, it is a birth certificate. If you have a birth certificate, then you can use a utility bill. Neither one of those have your photo on it, I want to point out. If you don't have a birth certificate, you need like 5 forms of ID, which sometimes can be challenging.
Yeah, that's part. Okay, I wanted to make sure that she wasn't saying like to go vote, but what she's saying is true. Like in order to get an ID, you need like usually these 2 forms of documentation or identification. And she said it. She said, mind you, neither one of them have your picture on it. She's absolutely right about that. So it's like if you don't have, and that's what I said earlier in the live stream, if you don't have a state ID already or a driver's license or a passport or a green card, that's when they start asking you for like a whole bunch more documentation, which that's the challenging part. Usually if you have, I don't know if you guys have ever seen this when you have to verify yourself, but usually they have something like list A, list B, list C. And usually you need one from list A, one from list B. If you don't have something from list A, you can use B and C, like 2 from B and 1 from C. So everything she's saying here is right as far as like getting a state ID, right? Like that's why I said I don't understand why the driver's license that has a real ID on it or the state ID that's a real ID, that should be enough. I don't see those people having to go and actually bring a birth certificate, because if you guys know what it took to get your real ID, then you would already know you had to present some type of documentation to present that. For me personally, my ID that I turned in already had real ID on it. So it was just a matter of me bringing one. I still have my DD-214 with me. I still had my birth certificate with me. I had everything I needed to get it switched over. But she is right about this. When you can't produce usually something from list A, then they start having you produce a lot more documentation, and that's usually the tricky part.
I'm telling you, as someone who had a grandmother who did not have her birth certificate. She was born in Panama City, Florida. Okay? My mom had to call the Board of Elections in Panama City, Florida, to try and get proof of her birth. She is living, she is breathing, she is a black woman, she is living nowhere else than Youngstown. Well, that's not true, a couple other cities. But primarily in Youngstown, Ohio. Do you know how they said that she could prove her ID? A family Bible. Now you want to tell me a family Bible is how we are? That's the law in a state like Florida. Voter ID laws do.
Yo, that's crazy work. A family Bible. How is that supposed to verify anybody's ID?
Raise the threshold and make it harder. There is a significant amount of Americans that don't have passports, because they've never left the country. Passports are expensive. So if you want to pay for everyone to get a passport, great. Make it easy like that. Or they don't have access to the birth certificate, and it is not easy.
You should get access to your birth certificate.
Yes, but I'm saying it is not easy to get access to your birth certificate, because you need other forms of ID to get access to your birth certificate, but you can't get your birth certificate if you don't have those IDs, and you can't get those IDs if you don't have those certificates.
It's circular about the fact that Trump lost the last election.
I don't think Kim believes that he lost in 2020. Kim, do you believe he lost in 2020?
Yep, swore Joe Biden in, saw the whole thing. Yeah.
But did Joe Biden win rightfully? Because you mentioned this thing about Hunter Biden's laptop, and you went in
He won, but I think Zucker busted wrongfully. And I think the censorship that took place with Joe Biden's full knowledge on the Hunter Biden laptop wasn't illegal, but it was cheating.
The president continues to believe that he won an election that he lost, and now is trying to fashion American policy around that falsehood. Is that really how we should be operating in this country? That he wants to outlaw mail-in ballots, even though Republicans utilize them and win when they exist, just because he thinks wrongly that.
Let's see, shout out to the chat. Gerald said, yo, fix your audio, bro. Yo, no, because my audio's like that for copyright reasons. So I have to leave it like that or else YouTube will clip me. Anyway, shout out to you though. Happy Friday.
He won an election that he lost.
I think he lawfully lost in 2020. I don't think we ought to have mail-in ballots. I do think we ought to have voter ID. And I don't think the Congress ought to do it. I think the states ought to do it. But I think every state in the country should have voter ID and no mail-in ballots. That is the only right way to run an election that has no fraud. And I don't see why it's even an issue. And the American people don't either. About 80% of Americans think we ought to have voter ID in every state with a photograph issued by the state, not a utility bill. That's not voter ID. You can steal that out of the apartment mailroom. You need a voter ID.
Yeah, or a family Bible, which is.
One think we ought to have voter ID in every state with a photograph issued by the state, not a utility bill. That's not voter ID. You can steal that out of the apartment mailroom. You need a voter ID.
Gerald, it's all good, man. I don't get mad about things like that. I have a lot of people usually jump in the live stream and say, hey, you have an echo. What's going on with your audio? But over time, I had to do that. Like sometimes I'll speed it up and it'll sound like really fast. Or sometimes like it'll just have an echo. Because if I don't, YouTube will either demonetize, they won't let me monetize, they'll clip me and say that I'm using somebody else's content without changing it. So this is all just like rights for YouTube. That's the only reason why sometimes it sounds distorted. When I come back on live stream later on today, it'll sound better. So shout out to you. I mean, thanks for letting me know because other people in the chat probably care about that. But I'm literally doing this strictly for copyright reasons. Trust me, it annoys me to listen to it too.
It's I do. You said pass it down. I do.
Every state, and it's inadequate. Every state should have a government-issued photo ID as a requirement to show up to vote.
Let me ask you this question. Fundamentally, conservative Republicans, are you going to pay for it?
Every state that
yes. So you're going to pay for it.
If you get rid of mail voting,
No. If you want people to have, there's no if. Do you want people to have an ID? Do you want to have an ID?
Free ID, yeah, free ID, of course.
So you want the state's going to pay for it?
Absolutely.
The state's going to pay for it.
Absolutely, they do in Tennessee.
It's like when people motor voter. Right? When people assist.
I've always loved the state of Tennessee. I see why. He literally said that they paid for that in Tennessee. That's what's up.
And it's actually trying to remove that. So when people actually go to get a photo ID from a state agency, and then can also easily register to vote because they've already proven who they are because they have a photo ID. In that bill, it is taking that assistance at the DMV out. So it is, again, putting another unnecessary barrier.
You should register at DMV. And you should be registered the same day too, right, Kim?
No, absolutely not. 30 days out. 30 days out.
Why do the goalposts keep moving?
Because they lose.
No, it's not.
Let me finish my question because it seems to me that at all these different junctures, Republicans have been talking about voter fraud. They've got Help America Vote. Some states have voter ID. Georgia, the state that Trump thinks that he won when he lost, it has a voter ID law on the books. Even those things are not sufficient, even though the prevalence of fraud has not increased. So why does what you guys are asking for keep changing and keep shifting?
So I don't think that it does. I think attention has been brought to this after 2020 on the right. The left has been engaged in pursuing its goals in the process since 2004. And the right only really got into the game since.
If I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying that since 2020, again, since Trump lost an election that he rightfully lost, that Republicans are suddenly more fixated on changing the rules of voting.
Cleaning up those areas.
Why? Because
this isn't.
He lost if he rightfully lost.
I'm sorry if you're on your turf after 20 years. But up until 2020, Democrats owned this space. And Republicans weren't even participating in it. And I think an awful lot of the pushback, election reform of any kind. So I work with
voter suppression.
Republicans don't perform voter suppression.
No such thing.
Okay. Let me just.
And there's no fraud either.
I want to understand what you're saying.
So
finish your.
let's set, if it's possible for anybody, set Donald Trump aside.
I'm dead. They're trying to he's trying to explain himself, and she said the Republicans lead in voter suppression, and the guy was like, the guy to the far right, he's like, there's no such thing, and she said, child. Oh my God, that's black people code for shut up, you lying and you full of it.
And look, I work in the election reform space. I've always had the opinion that if you pulled 100 random Americans off the street and put them in a hotel and asked them to design an election system, and you did it 1,000 times, they'd come awfully close to one another. By the way, they'd all have voter ID. And they'd all make a photo citizen. Because it is overwhelming.
It also makes election day a day off.
Yes.
It's 2026. Americans, I think, probably believe there should be a system right now in which the government, who knows who is a citizen and who is not, who is eligible to vote and who is not, the government actually does its job and checks who's eligible to vote in the moment that someone is trying to vote. So these are pretty straightforward things that, yes, Americans would want, but that's not what we're putting on the table.
So this is a real interesting point, and I bet a lot of people watching don't know this. The U.S. government does not have a list of U.S. citizens. I think there's a certain expectation out there that such a list exists. Really, you have to build the proof on an individual basis because we have never maintained a national list of who's a U.S. citizen. Other countries do this, but we have
But the states have access to if the documentation that can prove that you're born in the United States exists, that means that the state has it. Okay? So your birth certificate, the state has that. So there may not be a national registry of American citizens, but every state knows who was born in their jurisdiction. Every state. The federal government does know who's been naturalized. There is a list of those naturalized citizens. Yes, so those are the people who are eligible to vote, the naturalized ones. So this information does exist. I don't think it's accurate to suggest that it doesn't. The government is the keeper of the information.
I'm not arguing with you on this point. I'm pointing out there are a lot of people who really don't want the U.S. government to have one comprehensive.
I didn't say U.S. government. I didn't say U.S. government. I said the state. The state should
not have. It's clear now. They should not have one national election law. We should not have the national government running elections because it makes them not having the federal government run all elections makes elections much harder to steal, as Donald Trump found out, because the decentralization of the election process means that in local areas at the state level as well, people are proud to find and count and tabulate and present the voice of their community, whether they're Republicans or whether they're Democrats. That's why Trump couldn't get those 1,170 votes, whatever it was.
And ultimately,
because they were Georgians.
Yes.
And they were not going to let this fella, and frankly, give me the willies when Donald Trump says, if you pass this law, they won't win an election for 50 years.
And by
the other thing that's in the fact is prosecuting election administrators who make a mistake when people are registering to vote, like sending them to jail. That's intimidation of state. The people that you're talking about, the Ruby Freemans.
I mean, it is intimidation unless it's something that the person during the process did on purpose, and that would take some investigation and some looking into. Shout out to you guys for stopping by on a morning live stream. It's been a while since I did an early morning live stream. The last time I did one, I think it was actually back in December before I went on vacation from work. Around December, I'm usually going around 30 days. So I was on very early a lot in December. But shout out to you guys for stopping by. I wanted to jump on early just because of last night's live stream being short. And I've been wanting to give you guys a very early one. Like, I'm up so early in the day. It just makes sense. So shout out to you guys for stopping by on the corner. Happy Friday. Enjoy your weekend. I will be back later on today for the daily live stream as promised. If I bring you guys an early one, then it's just an early one. But I have times that I go on, so I will come back later on in the day. Probably not so late tonight, but around that time, right? Because I have a couple of things that I have to do as far as like repairs, looking at properties today and things like that. So I'll be a little bit busy. So it was just more feasible to jump on right now. I'm not saying I won't be on later. I will 100% be on later. So I just wanted to jump on, give you guys an early live stream, say happy Friday to you guys when Friday starts. Go ahead, love on your family, enjoy your time. Take it easy, man. Don't get stressed out. I was going to play you guys a clip by Aaron Page. He's a YouTube Christian content creator, but some of the people in the chat are telling me it's echoing too much right now. So I will save that for when we come back. I like to end the live stream or begin it with a Christian clip. So what I will say to you guys is Jesus is available to everyone, whether you believe or not. If you're atheist or agnostic, you're probably one of his favorite people because you have to put out so much energy to believe absolutely nothing. As somebody who works in the scientific field, I heavily not just believe in Jesus, but I belong to him. So I just encourage you guys that if you're having any trouble in your life or any hard circumstances, if you yourself cannot pray, reach out to somebody in your life who does pray. Because whether you're an atheist or agnostic, you have somebody close to you that prays. When you need a big work done in your life, don't go to a watered down Christian. Don't go to a lukewarm Christian, meaning a Christian that doesn't have a lot of intimacy or closeness in their relationship with God. You can tell that by how someone speaks about God. So when you need something done, go to that person in your life. For some of you, it's probably a parent. For some of you, it might be a friend. It might even, I know for some people, I'm that person and I'm their coworker, right? But I will stop in the middle of my work day. I don't care if we're in a lab or in a parking lot, and I will pray for somebody. Depression is a real thing. Anxiety is a real thing. Black and brown people, we don't acknowledge that much. Black and Hispanic people, we're strong people. So for us, it's like thinking about mental health or not being right or not being able to function. Sometimes that's like a short circuit for us. We kind of just push through things and we ignore things like that. I'm asking you not to ignore it. That's why a lot of the times when Men's Mental Health Month comes up, it's very important to me because we'll all pay attention to mental health in general. Men struggle a lot, and statistically more than women, and higher on the spectrum. Men commit suicide a lot more than women. Men are homeless more than women are. Like, men really do go through it. So for men out there that are dealing with any type of anxiety, depression, any type of defeat, like, just know the people in your life that love God, the people that you watch, the people that are close to you that love God, that is God's kindness towards you and showing you that he's still there with you. All you have to do is tell someone that's close to Jesus what you're dealing with. And if there's someone that's used to dealing with people, they'll just meet you where you are. They're not going to sit there and give you all the Jesus verses and beat you over the head with the Bible. They're just going to sit with you and meet you where you are. And depression is fine in the sense where it's like it's not a taboo. If you feel it or you're going through it, okay, great. As human beings, we have emotions. Sometimes we're angry, sometimes we're happy, sometimes we're depressed, and we go through those things. But this is the reason why joy is a fruit of the Spirit. There are 9 fruits of the Spirit. Joy is one of them. And I often like to say to people, joy is not something that the world's going to give you, right? If the world gives you anything, it will be a temporary instant gratification. It will not be the word joy. That is a biblical word. Joy belongs to the Holy Spirit. Joy belongs to God. It is not conditional, right? It is a fixed state, right? And it is fixed because we decide that we belong to the Lord and our joy comes from him, not our day-to-day life. So shout out to you guys for stopping by on the live stream. Anybody that needs prayer, let me know. If not in this live stream, in the next one. Go ahead, enjoy your day. If you're on your way to work, be great at work, kill it. If you're on your way to just love on and be with your family, be great at that, kill it. And I will see you guys later on in the next live stream. Take care of yourselves, take care of one another, love yourselves, love one another, be peaceful. Share Jesus with someone today. Peace.